There are 14,763 laws in the Galactic Survival Code. Someone ignored the most important one. They touched a human's coffee, and for about 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire station went silent. Location: Commercial Station Nebula Nina, name exactly as bleak as it sounds. It's one of those interstellar truck stops that exists because space is enormous, and sometimes you need overpriced snacks and a restroom that smells like recycled air and regret. Janet Rodriguez was having what humans call a day. She'd spent 16 hours on a cargo hauler with all the charm of a flying shipping container. She's a xenobotanist. She studies alien flora, which means she spends most of her time explaining to various species why their decorative houseplants are lethally poisonous. No, you really shouldn't have eaten that. She had 15 minutes before her connecting shuttle to the Vorgus system, where she was supposed to lecture on why your ornamental garden is trying to eat your face. She needed 3 things: a restroom, food, and coffee. Not necessarily in that order. The coffee situation was critical. The freighter's drink dispenser failed somewhere near the Horsehead Nebula, leaving Janet in a state humans call uncaffeinated and medical professionals call pre-homicidal. She stumbled into the station's only cafe. Brew or die. That should have been a clue. The barista was a flumpian named Grex, the only being in the sector who could operate an espresso machine with tentacles. Coffee isn't a drink. It's a defense mechanism. Janet ordered a triple-shot dark roast with the desperate intensity of a hostage negotiator. 7 credits, Grex gurgled pleasantly. She paid. Grex worked with the practiced speed of someone who'd witnessed uncaffeinated humans before and valued his own survival. The cup hit the counter. Janet reached for it with trembling fingers. Her hand was 3 centimeters away when something unforgivable happened. A hand not human, 3-fingered, greenish-blue snatched her coffee. The owner, Thax Vorplume, a Verlian merchant who had apparently decided today was the perfect day to make the single worst decision of his extremely long existence. "Oh, perfect," Thax chirped, oblivious to the sudden temperature drop around Janet. He took a sip. "A bit bitter, but it'll do." The station's background noise continued for 2.3 seconds, then silence fell like a collapsing star. Grex's tentacles went rigid. In Flumpian, which is mostly alarmed gurgling, he said something that translates to, "Sweet, merciful void." He didn't. He did. Janet Rodriguez turned to face Thax with the slow, deliberate motion of a planet entering a decaying orbit. Her left eye twitched, then her right. Then both synchronized in a rhythm suggesting something fundamental had just broken in her brain's diplomatic module. "Excuse me," she said, her voice reaching a pitch later described as seismically ominous. "Is that my coffee?" Thax, who'd survived pirate raids, customs inspections, and one memorable incident involving fermented Plutonian fruit, completely failed to recognize the danger. "Oh, this was yours. Sorry, you weren't holding it. Critical error, catastrophic miscalculation. Reality-ending oversight." "I wasn't holding it," Janet repeated slowly, "because I was reaching for it, which means it was mine. Which means you just took my coffee." "Well, technically possession is 9/10." He didn't finish. What happened next would be debated by xenopsychologists for decades. Some say Janet moved first. Others swear the coffee cup moved itself out of sheer self-preservation. Several witnesses claimed reality briefly paused to reconsider its choices. Within 0.7 seconds, Janet executed a maneuver later classified as the Rodriguez Gambit, a wrist twist, an elbow strike, and a leverage technique that exploited Verlian physiology in ways several interstellar treaties suggested were probably illegal. The coffee cup arced through the air. Janet caught it without looking. Not a single drop spilled. Thax hit the floor with a thump that rattled every table. "My coffee." Janet took a long, deliberate sip. Her eyes stopped twitching. Color returned to her face. The cosmic balance had been restored. Then she noticed everyone staring. "What?" she said defensively. "He took my coffee." To her, this was a perfectly reasonable explanation for assaulting a member of the Galactic Merchant Guild. To everyone else, it looked like a human had committed grievous bodily harm over a warm beverage. "You attacked me over coffee," Thax wheezed. "I'm filing charges. You'll be banned from every civilized system." "You took her coffee?" Grex interrupted, voice quivering. "A human's coffee." "So what?" "So you're lucky she didn't kill you." Thax struggled upright, his ego far more damaged than his ribs. This is absurd. It's a beverage. I've dealt with Crothaxi, they literally eat their enemies. I've negotiated with the Famrans, they communicate through controlled explosions. But humans are the real danger because of hot brown liquid? Janet finished her coffee in 3 long gulps, crushed the cup one-handed, and tossed it into recycling with casual accuracy. You want to know why? She said. Because that coffee was the only thing standing between me and a complete psychological breakdown. I've been awake 16 hours. I've eaten nothing but protein paste that tastes like disappointment. And I have to give a lecture in 40 minutes to beings who think venomous strangler vines make lovely houseplants. She stepped closer. Thax suddenly remembered somewhere else he needed to be. That coffee wasn't just a drink, it was survival. It was sanity. It was the thin line between me being a functional citizen and me becoming everyone else's problem. Never interfere with a human's caffeine. That's not advice. That's a warning. I'm going to make you a problem, Thax snarled. Station security. 2 Drew officers appeared 8 feet tall, with the people skills of an automated phone tree. Officer Plindock surveyed the scene with the weary expression of someone who'd broken up too many fights over parking disputes. Issue? That human assaulted me. Plindox turned to Grex. What happened? Grex's tentacles writhed. The Verlian took the human's coffee. Both officers went very still. He took her coffee, Plindox repeated slowly. Yes, her coffee specifically, and she'd already paid, the second officer. Crinthax pulled out a datapad with the resigned air of someone filing insurance paperwork after a meteor strike. Right, standard protocol for human beverage theft. Sir, you'll need to come with us. What? She attacked me? Yes, sir. But you committed aggravated beverage theft against a human. That's a Class C diplomatic incident. It's coffee. Plindock sighed the sigh of someone who'd had this conversation before. Sir, 3 months ago on Station Praxis 4, a Zelfarian accidentally drank a human grandmother's tea. She punched him unconscious for 6 hours. This is not isolated. Humans have documented extreme violence when their caffeinated beverages are threatened. That's insane. That's humanity, sir. Now please come with us before this escalates. Too late. Because Thax Vorplunge, many beings who'd spent too long thinking they understood the universe made his second catastrophic mistake. He decided to escalate. I refuse. I'm calling the Verlian embassy. I'm contacting the Merchant Guild. I'll make sure every human in the galaxy knows they can't assault people over drinks. He pulled out his communicator and started recording. My name is Thax Vorplum, and I'm being persecuted for the crime of drinking coffee. Humans are dangerous and unstable, and I will prove it. He uploaded the video to the Galactic Trade Network, basically space Facebook, but with worse privacy policies and more cryptocurrency scams. Within 6 minutes, 4,000 views. 1 hour, 40,000. 3 hours, viral across 17 systems. The comment section was exactly as productive as you'd expect. Humans are psychotic. Ban them, maybe don't steal people's drinks. I once saw a human cry over spilled coffee. Literally cry. My human coworker said she'd commit war crimes without her morning coffee. I thought she was joking. I no longer think she was joking. By the time Janet boarded her shuttle, completely unaware she'd become the center of a galaxy-wide firestorm, the Administrative Council had received 473 formal complaints, 612 concerned inquiries, and one very confused message from a human delegation asking, "What did we do?" Back in his office, Zixler read the incident report with the mounting horror of someone watching a disaster movie and realizing they're inside it. Page 47, Witness Statements. Page 93, Thax's Medical Report 3 bruised ribs and catastrophic ego damage. Page 156, Janet's Psychological Profile, which concluded she was within normal parameters for human behavior. That was somehow the most terrifying part. Page 203. Historical context, human responses to beverage interference. He read about Boston. 1773 humans throwing an entire shipment of tea into the harbor and starting a revolution over leaves in hot water. And that revolution succeeded. Humans created a nation because they were angry about beverage taxation. There were 14 more pages about coffee specifically, temples to coffee. Buildings called Starbucks on every corner, humans waiting in lines. Paying 6 credits for coffee that costs 30 cents to make, 27 different brewing methods. One xenanthropologist quote, Trying to understand human coffee culture is like explaining quantum mechanics to a stubborn rock. The rock makes more sense. Zixler's primary eye began scanning faster. His species evolved triple redundant brain systems to prevent headaches. They weren't working. Page 260, projected escalation scenarios. Scenario 1. Thax drops charges. Incident forgotten in 3 weeks. Probability 0.03%. Scenario 2. Thax pursues charges. Media intensifies. Humans respond with disproportionate outrage. Coffee becomes diplomatic issue. Probability 47.6%. Scenario 3. Someone tries weaponizing this against humanity. Humans weaponize coffee, trade sanctions. 3 governments collapse. Probability 31.2%. Scenario 4. Total societal breakdown across 6 systems as everyone argues about beverage rights. Probability 18.7%. Scenario 5. Everything works out fine and everyone learns a valuable lesson about personal property. Probability 0.01%. The quantum computers apparently laughed at Scenario 5. Quantum computers aren't supposed to laugh. Zixler set down the report and performed a traditional Nivellan breathing exercise. Inhale through primary spiracle. Hold 7 seconds. Exhale through auxiliary spiracle while contemplating the infinite void. It didn't help. He tapped his communicator. Get me the human embassy, now. Ambassador Keo Tanaka answered with the expression of someone who'd been expecting bad news and was almost relieved to finally receive it. Is it the coffee thing? She said, It's the coffee thing, isn't it? I've already received 43 calls asking why our citizen committed assault over a beverage. 44 now, Zixler said. Help me understand. Is this behavior typical? Keo laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. Counselor Janet Rodriguez showed remarkable restraint. She physically assaulted someone. He took her coffee. KO's voice rose 3 octaves. Do you understand? 16 hours traveling, sleep-deprived, hungry, facing an 8-hour lecture. That coffee was the only thing keeping her functional, and someone just grabbed it like it was community property. It's a drink. It's not just a drink. I'm sending you human cultural documentation. Read it before this gets worse. The documentation arrived 17 minutes later. 300 pages. Page 1 quoted physicist Leonard Hofstadter. Coffee is not a beverage. It's a defense mechanism. Page 2. 64% of humans consider coffee essential to daily functioning. 41% claim they can't talk to anyone before morning coffee. 17% admit committing minor crimes while uncaffeinated. Page 17. Memes. Zixler's translator struggled to categorize them as humor or warnings. One showed a human woman with the caption, Death before decaf. Another, I'm sorry for what I said before I had my coffee. These were jokes in the way that, please don't. Feed the tigers signs are jokes, technically humorous, practically essential survival information. Page 44 described coffee withdrawal, headaches, irritability, fatigue, and what humans call the grumpies. An uncaffeinated human can be 4 times more aggressive than a caffeinated one. And humans were already considered concerningly aggressive by galactic standards. They invented sports where they punched each other for fun. They thought skydiving was recreational. They kept sharks in glass boxes so they could swim near them. And that was when they were caffeinated. Page 93. Coffee in human warfare. Military forces considered coffee essential to combat operations. Soldiers refused to fight without it. One nation included instant coffee in rations as important as ammunition. As important as ammunition. The final page contained a simple bolded warning. Under no circumstances should non-humans interfere with a human's coffee supply. This is not a suggestion. This is a threat assessment. Zixler looked at his stamps. Approved. Denied. Likely apocalyptic. He needed a 4th stamp that said, Oh, nitrogen monoxide. Oh, nitrogen monoxide. Oh, nitrogen monoxide, we're all going to die. The next day, the Merchant Guild pressed charges against Janet. Thax appeared dramatically bandaged, declaring he was fighting for merchants' rights against unprovoked human violence. The human response was swift and disproportionate. Within 6 hours, #StopCoffeeTheft trended across human networks. Within 12 hours, every human merchant in the galaxy stopped selling coffee to non-humans. Within 24 hours, human cargo ships carrying coffee altered routes to avoid stations supporting the charges. The coffee supply to 3,000 stations immediately dried up. Doesn't sound significant? Over the past 18 months, non-humans had discovered coffee was fantastic, stimulating, delicious. It made boring council meetings bearable. Approximately 40,000 non-humans had developed what medical professionals reluctantly called coffee habits. They were about to learn what withdrawal meant. Station Commander Vix Thorne of the Kepler 442 hub sent desperate messages. Day 1. Morale low. Fortillians complaining. Dloxians agitated. Day 2. 3 fights in the food court. Zyperian delegate said he'd kill for a cappuccino. We're treating it as a joke. Not sure it is a joke. Day 3. The shakes have started. Chief of Operations is crying. Actual tears over coffee. I finally understand what humans warned us about. Day 4. Rationing remaining supplies. Nearly a riot at the cafe. Security posted. This is insane. Day 5. Senators drinking instant coffee dissolved in lukewarm water. It's degrading. It's inhumane. Wait, I'm not human. Is there a word for this? The Galactic News Network, which usually covered exciting stories like trade agreements, suddenly reported on the coffee crisis with breathless urgency. Human coffee embargo enters day 6. If it continues, 17 systems face significant commerce disruption. We go now to our correspondent outside a cafe. Ambassador, why are you crying? Ambassador Feltrip of the Iranian collectivist species known for stoic composure was openly weeping. The cafe ran out of coffee. They're offering herbal tea. Tea doesn't work. I have a meeting in 20 minutes and I cannot function. The galaxy learned the hard way. Coffee isn't a luxury. It's a peace treaty. The interview went viral. Shared 80,000 times. Back at the council, an emergency session convened. 400 representatives, most looking distinctly unwell from caffeine withdrawal. Councillor Vilmax stood at the podium, tentacles trembling. We are here to discuss the human coffee embargo's unreasonable impact. Ambassador Tanaka rose smoothly, holding a travel mug. She took a long, deliberate sip. Every eye tracked the movement with desperate longing. Unreasonable? Her voice was dangerously calm. What's unreasonable is that our citizen paid for coffee. Someone took it before she could drink it. And now you're charging her with assault. She injured Merchant Vorplum. He stole her coffee. It's a beverage. Tanaka set her mug down with a thunk that echoed through the chamber. No, it's part of human culture. Part of human survival? And you all laughed when we tried to explain. Look at the silly humans with their bean water. How quaint. She looked around at the suffering representatives. Now you understand. Now you know what it feels like to need coffee and not have it. And you've had 6 days of this. Janet faced 8 hours. Vilmax's tentacles drooped. Ambassador, please be reasonable. We can discuss terms, drop the charges, silence. Tanaka's expression was serene, which made her somehow more terrifying. She picked up her coffee and sipped, maintaining eye contact. Drop the charges against Janet Rodriguez. Issue a formal apology. Create an official regulation protecting individuals' rights to their purchased beverages. Do that and we resume coffee exports immediately. That's blackmail. That's negotiation. You have 12 hours. In 12 hours, we pull all human merchants from the Nebulan station chain. In 24 hours, we restrict coffee exports to exclusively human colonies. In 48 hours, she smiled pleasantly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Chaos erupted. Thax, watching from the gallery, finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. He'd stolen one coffee and started a diplomatic crisis affecting thousands of stations and millions of beings. His communicator buzzed. Message from his boss. Drop the charges now or you're fired. From his family. Are you insane? We can't get coffee because of you. From his neighbor. My morning routine is ruined. Then 400 more messages. Each more creative in describing what they thought of Thax's catastrophic life choices. 3 hours later, Thax stood at a podium, looking like someone who'd accidentally declared war on an entire species. I am dropping all charges against Janet Rodriguez. Furthermore, I issue a formal apology. I should not have taken her coffee. I should have respected personal property. I sincerely hope this resolves the situation. Do you regret your actions? A reporter shouted, Yes. Will you be more careful around humans? Absolutely yes. Have you learned anything? Don't touch a human's coffee, he paused, or their tea. Or any beverage, actually. Just don't touch anything of theirs without asking. They're terrifying when angry. Coffee shipments resumed within 6 hours. Withdrawal symptoms faded. The galaxy returned to normal, though. Normal now included a much healthier respect for human beverage culture. But the story wasn't over. Because Zixler had come to a terrible realization. Over the past 18 months, there'd been 243 similar incidents involving humans and coffee. And that was just the reported ones. He formed a committee. The Committee for Beverage Interaction Assessment, or CBIA, 17 representatives, 3 human cultural consultants, and 1 exhausted xenopsychologist named Dr. Fimlock, who specialized in irrational species behavior. Their mission: understand human coffee culture well enough to prevent future diplomatic incidents. The first meeting did not go well. "Why is coffee so important?" Dr. Fimlock began. Human consultant Trevor Walsh spoke up. "Because it works." "What do you mean?" "It makes us functional." Imagine trying to run a computer without power. That's humans without coffee, but you functioned for thousands of years before coffee. Did we, though? Human history is basically one long series of catastrophically bad decisions, punctuated by occasional brilliance. And most of those brilliant moments happened after coffee renaissance. Coffee, Industrial Revolution. Coffee, Information Age. Definitely coffee. That can't be causation, can it? Take away humanity's coffee and we regress 300 years technologically. Dr. Fimlock's head tentacles rose in confusion. "Let me ask you something," Trevor said. "Have you been drinking coffee lately?" "Well, yes, most of the station has." "It's quite pleasant. Now imagine I told you that you could never have it again. How would you feel?" Dr. Fimlock considered. His tentacles went rigid. "I would be quite upset." "Exactly. Multiply that feeling by 1,000 because you've had it every morning for 20 years and someone physically takes it from your hands before you've had a sip." That's what Janet experienced. Another consultant, Priya Nakamura, added, "Coffee isn't just a stimulant. It's ritual, comfort, reliability in an unreliable universe. When everything else goes wrong, you can still have your morning coffee. It's the one thing we count on. When someone takes that away, it's not about the caffeine. It's about the violation." Zixler felt something click. "So, interfering with a human's coffee is effectively an attack on their sense of stability." "Yes, thank you. Finally, someone understands. Which means regulations protecting human beverage consumption aren't about courtesy, they're about safety. Because an uncaffeinated human is a dangerous human. We prefer the term volatile," Trevor said diplomatically. "Dangerous," Zixler repeated. "The data supports it." The embargo caused a 47% increase in altercations. Property damage up 32%. In just 6 days. Dr. Fimlock took frantic notes. "So coffee is essentially a containment tool for human aggression?" "That's a horrible way to put it," Priya said. "But yes. Kind of, how much do humans consume?" "I drink 4 cups daily," Trevor said. "That's on the low end. Some drink 8 or 10. Some maintain a constant bloodstream caffeine level." The committee members looked at each other with dawning horror. Humans had been walking around, mingling with galactic society, operating heavy machinery, negotiating trade deals, all while under what was essentially a constant drug regimen. "We need regulations," Zixler announced. "Comprehensive regulations." Over 6 weeks, CBIA drafted the Galactic Beverage Protection Act. Article 1. No being shall interfere with another's purchased beverage without explicit permission. Article 2. Interference includes taking, moving, spilling, adulterating, or commenting negatively upon said beverage. Article 3. Establishments must clearly mark beverage ownership. Article 4. Special provisions for humans and coffee. Under no circumstances shall a human's coffee be interfered with unless the individual has received adequate warning, compensation, and alternative caffeine sources. Article 5. Violations result in fines, sanctions, and potential station expulsion. Articles 6 through 27. Various elaborations on why you really shouldn't mess with someone's drink. The act was presented on a Tuesday designated as a day of moderate administrative tedium. "This is ridiculous," complained Senator Vixthorne. 18 pages about beverages. Ambassador Tanaka raised her coffee cup. "Would you like a demonstration of why these are necessary?" No, we're good." "We'll pass it." The vote was unanimous. The act became law 17 minutes later, the fastest legislation in galactic history. The previous record was 4 months for a resolution designating National Pastoral Appreciation Day, but enforcement required education. Thus began the most bizarre campaign in galactic history. Posters appeared on every major station. Coffee. It's not just a drink, it's a human thing. Another. See this? Don't touch it. Seriously, a timeline poster. Human history, BC before coffee and a D after discovery. Notice the technological difference. The campaign worked. Nobody wanted a repeat of the 6-day embargo. Most significantly, Janet Rodriguez, humble Xenobotanist who just wanted her coffee, became a legend. She gave her lecture in the Vorgas system, unaware she was famous. When she returned to Nebula 9 2 weeks later, she found a plaque at Brew or Die, in memory of the coffee incident. May we never forget, respect personal property, especially when it contains caffeine. Grex greeted her with reverence. Miss Rodriguez. An honor, your usual? Just coffee, thanks. On the house. When she sat down, 3 different aliens approached to call her an inspiration. One Verlia merchant bowed and apologized for his entire species. It was deeply weird. When she returned to Earth for a vacation, she discovered she was a celebrity. T-shirts with her face. Respect the coffee, memes, fan clubs. Her mother called, crying with laughter. Janet, you're famous! You assaulted an alien over coffee and became a hero? I didn't mean to assault anyone. He took my coffee. I know, and now the entire galaxy knows. Your father wants to know if you'll sign a coffee mug for him. She signed the mug. Then 400 more over the next month. She gave interviews, appeared on talk shows, spoke at conferences about cultural understanding and respecting personal boundaries. Through it all, she maintained the bewildered expression of someone who just wanted a cup of coffee and accidentally started a civil rights movement. 6 months later, she received a formal invitation from the council. They wanted her as a cultural liaison for human-alien interactions. The job paid suspiciously well. She accepted because honestly, it couldn't be weirder than her current life. Her first assignment, develop training for station personnel on human behavioral patterns and beverage protocols. She walked into a center to find 300 aliens staring with a mixture of respect, fear, and intense curiosity. Hi, she said awkwardly. I'm Janet Rodriguez. I'm here to talk about coffee. For 2 hours. She explained human coffee culture with the weary patience of someone who'd explained complex things to people who refused to understand: history, caffeine addiction physiology, the significance of morning routines, the absolute necessity of never interfering with someone's coffee. Questions? 300 hands, tentacles, and appendages shot up. Is it true humans have killed each other over coffee? Probably. Humans have killed each other over most things. Coffee seems reasonable compared to some of the stupid reasons we fought wars. Nervous laughter. How much coffee do you drink daily? 3 to 5 cups. And if someone took one of those cups, Janet's expression went carefully neutral, I would politely ask for it back. If they refused, I would impolitely take it back. If they persisted, she smiled pleasantly. Well, we wouldn't get that far because they'd have learned by that point. The audience made various sounds translating to. Yeah, that makes sense. The training succeeded. Within 3 months, beverage-related incidents dropped 93%. Within 6 months, they were so rare that station security created an award for most days without a coffee incident. But the most unexpected outcome, non-humans began understanding coffee on a deeper level. Not just caffeine ritual, comfort, consistency. Coffee shops appeared on stations that never had them. Aliens developed preferences. Debates raged over espresso versus drip. Arguments broke out over correct sugar amounts. The galaxy adopted coffee culture and with it, newfound respect for the humans who'd violently defended it. 3 years later, Janet ran the largest coffee consultation firm in the galaxy. Offices on 17 stations. 200 employees. Wealthy beyond her wildest dreams, all because she refused to let someone take her coffee. She was reviewing contracts when her Delaxian assistant announced a visitor. Thax Vorplume is here. She hadn't seen Thax since the incident. She'd heard he'd left the Merchant Guild for a quiet colony on the edge of civilized space, presumably to escape constant mockery. Send him in, Thax entered, looking significantly more humble, thinner, older, but his eyes held something new. Wisdom. Miss Rodriguez, I wanted to apologize in person. You already apologized publicly. Several times. I know. But I never apologized to you specifically. You were just trying to get through a difficult day and I made it worse because I was thoughtless and arrogant. He pulled out a small package. Coffee, expensive, single origin, ethically sourced, hand-roasted from Earth. Janet laughed. You brought me coffee. It seemed appropriate. I've learned a lot about humans, about respect, about how small things matter more than we think. That coffee wasn't just a drink. It was your anchor in a chaotic day. And I took it because I didn't believe your experience mattered as much as my convenience. He sat down, uninvited courage or stupidity. Given his history, possibly both. I've been working on my self-therapy, meditation, reading human culture. Did you know humans wrote songs about coffee, poetry, an entire art genre dedicated to coffee shops? I knew that, yes. It's fascinating and terrifying. You people are passionate about everything, you feel deeply, you care intensely. And I dismissed that because it didn't make sense to me. He shook his head. I was a fool. Janet studied him. Then opened the package and inhaled the aroma. Excellent coffee. The kind you save for special occasions. You know the worst part? She said finally. Not the assault charge, not the media attention. Not becoming accidentally famous. I never got to drink that coffee. Grex made a perfect cup, and I had to put it down to deal with station security. By the time everything was sorted out, it was cold. Fax looked horrified. I didn't realize. Void, I'm sorry. Janet laughed, genuine amusement. You know what? I forgive you. You made a mistake, you learned from it, you're here making amends. That's more than most people do. Thax stood, relief evident. Thank you. I won't take more of your time. Wait. Janet stood too. Since you're here and you brought excellent coffee, the least I can do is share it. Can you brew this and bring 2 cups? Thax's eyes widened. You want to have coffee with me? Why not? You've clearly learned your lesson. And I've learned that holding grudges takes more energy than forgiveness. Plus, this coffee is too good to drink alone. They sat together, drinking coffee and talking about the strange turns their lives had taken. Thax told her about his new business consulting aliens on avoiding cultural misunderstandings. Janet told him about the surreal experience of becoming the galactic spokeswoman for beverage rights. You know what's funny? Thax said, savoring his coffee. This whole incident happened because I was thoughtless. Now I spend my life helping people be more thoughtful. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. The universe doesn't have a sense of humor, Janet corrected. It has a sense of irony. Which is worse. They both laughed, the comfortable laugh of people who'd learned that catastrophic mistakes can become valuable lessons if you're willing to learn from them. When Thax left an hour later, Janet sat alone, finishing her coffee and reflecting on the absurd chain of events. She'd gone from xenobotanist giving lectures about poisonous plants to a cultural icon who'd accidentally taught the galaxy about respect, boundaries, and the sacred nature of coffee. Her communicator buzzed, Ambassador Tunica. Janet, we need you at Station Helix 7, incident involving a human and what locals call a stimulating beverage. It was tea, wasn't it? How did you know? Because humans are passionate about all our beverages, let me guess. Someone suggested the human's tea was basically the same as coffee. Yes, now the human has locked himself in a cargo bay and refuses to come out until someone apologizes for the grievous insult to tea culture. Janet sighed. I'll be there in 6 hours. Send someone with good tea as a peace offering. Not generic tea, good tea. Actual leaves and tell them to apologize profusely. Will that work? Probably. If not, we might need separate regulations for tea. Oh, Void. Not another beverage crisis. Welcome to my life, Ambassador. Janet ended the call and looked at her half-finished coffee. She raised the cup in a mock toast to the empty office. To humanity, she said aloud, we're passionate. We're intense. And we will absolutely start diplomatic incidents over beverages. And somehow the galaxy is better for it. She drained the cup, grabbed her travel bag, and headed for the shuttle bay. There was a tea-related emergency to resolve because apparently that was her life now. Behind her, the plaque on her office wall read, The first rule of galactic survival, don't touch a human's coffee. Below it, someone had handwritten, or tea. Seriously, just don't touch any human beverages. It's not worth it. Across the galaxy on thousands of stations, similar plaques and warnings existed. Constant reminders of the coffee crisis, the 6-day embargo, and the fundamental lesson the galaxy had learned the hard way. Humans were complicated. Humans were passionate. Humans were sometimes irrational. But most importantly, humans were consistent in their irrationality, which made them predictable once you understood the patterns. And the most important pattern, never interfere with a human's coffee, or tea, or any beverage they'd purchased and were looking forward to consuming. It wasn't about the caffeine. It wasn't about the cost. It was about respect, boundaries, understanding that small things matter, especially when someone's having a difficult day. The galaxy had learned this lesson at great cost. Diplomatic tension, economic disruption, the traumatic experience of 6 days without coffee. But they had learned it, and they were better for it. The Council's official records contained approximately 14,763 regulations. But ask any being who'd lived through the coffee crisis, and they'd tell you only one rule really mattered. Don't touch a human's coffee. Everything else was just details. And somewhere in the Vorgus system, on a space station cafe, Grex the Flumpian carefully prepared each coffee order with the reverence it deserved, never once allowing a drink to be given to the wrong customer. Because he'd seen what happened when you made that mistake. He'd witnessed the birth of a galactic regulation. He'd watched a single act of thoughtless theft cascade into a crisis affecting millions. And he'd learned the most important lesson of his long career. When a human orders coffee, you give them their coffee. You don't substitute it. You don't borrow it. You definitely don't take it for yourself. Because humans were reasonable people who asked for reasonable things and responded reasonably to having those things provided. But take away their coffee? Well, that's when things got unreasonable. And the galaxy had enough unreasonable problems without adding angry, uncaffeinated humans to the list. The machine behind the counter hissed and gurgled, brewing another perfect cup. Grex poured it carefully into a cup marked with the customer's name, set it on the counter, and announced loudly, "Coffee for Janet Rodriguez, a human woman middle-aged, tired eyes, a smile suggesting she'd seen everything the universe had to offer and wasn't impressed walked up. She picked up her coffee, inhaled the aroma, and took that first glorious sip. Her eyes closed in relief, her shoulders relaxed. The tension visible in every line of her body melted away. As long as there's coffee, there's hope and nobody's taken that without a fight? Perfect, she said with genuine satisfaction. Absolutely perfect. Grex's tentacles writhed with pride. My pleasure, Miss Rodriguez, same time tomorrow? You know it. She raised her cup in a salute. Thanks, Grex. She walked away, coffee in hand, ready to face whatever bizarre challenge the universe threw at her next. Because she had her coffee. And as long as she had her coffee, everything was manageable, even galactic diplomacy, even beverage-related international incidents, even the absurd reality of being the woman who'd accidentally taught an entire galaxy about respect through a single act of justified violence over a cup of coffee. The universe was strange. The universe was complicated. The universe was full of unexpected challenges and bizarre coincidences and catastrophic misunderstandings. But as long as there was coffee, there was hope. And nobody was going to take that away from humanity without a fight. Now, if you've ever had someone reach for your cup before you've had that first sip hit, and make sure you're subscribed to Ascension of Man for more stories about why humanity is simultaneously the most reasonable and most terrifying species in the galaxy.